A good Bach, Shavua Tov, a wonderful new week to you wherever you are. Tonight I wanted to share with you an absolutely amazing book that I'm reading. It's called Lodestone by Mendel Edelman. And so far it is earning its place on my bookshelf as one of my two favorite contemporary books, even though I haven't yet finished it. So he begins this book by making the premise that human beings have a natural inclination towards the 7 universal laws of mankind, and that it's actually built into our DNA. We are pre-programmed to not want to murder, to steal, to be immoral, to torture animals, to any of those things that we mentioned in the 7 universal laws of humanity. But as the book progresses, he shows us through different scientific studies and through different stories and through the Torah how people have the ability to override those natural inclinations. For instance, he brings the story of Rene Descartes, I believe his name is, a philosopher from the 17th century who did horrific studies on animals in order to prove that they're just a bunch of automatons, that they don't actually have feelings. He dissected them and he said that any of their reactions have to do with the nervous system being activated. So any expressions of fear or pain were not actually fear or pain. Society at the time adopted the belief that we can do to animals whatever we wanted. And there were actually public cat burnings in which kittens were gathered in a net and they were lowered into a huge bonfire while the public was screaming and cheering and chanting as the kittens howled in pain as they were turned into a pile of ashes. And one of the French kings actually lit a bonfire underneath these kittens at one point in time. Another example he brings is how the Nazis, although they were very good with animal rights, they wrote the Jews as being below animals. We were like the vermin of the earth, like cockroaches. And because we didn't have the status of even animals, it was permitted to kill us. And they changed the thinking of society in that way. He also brings the example of how the American Declaration of Independence very specifically wrote that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they're endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Basically, the authors of the American Declaration of Independence were writing that all human beings are on the same level, we all have to be treated with respect. And yet many of those authors actually had hundreds of slaves at home that were treated in the worst manners possible. The question is how could people who really believed that all human beings were created equal, how could they do such horrific things as partake in the slave trade? The answer is that even though instinctually they knew it was wrong, they had to find a way to rationalize away these natural feelings. So there were scientific studies at the time that were conducted to prove that African and African Americans were not human in the same way that the white people were. They measured head circumference and they tried to prove that the white people had larger brains and were therefore more intellectual, and the Africans and the African Americans were subhuman. Anytime a person seeks to gain a personal benefit, they can come up with all intellectual reasons to do away with the 7 universal laws of humanity. That is why it is so fundamental to believe that these 7 universal commandments for all of humanity are divinely ordained, because as much as we rationalize them away, they will never change. They will never change because God never changes, and He expects us to follow these rules no matter who we are, no matter where we live. All of us at all times are obligated in the 7 laws of humanity, Jew and Gentile alike. The Jews do have additional commandments that they're required to do in the service of the Creator. Keep following for more information. We will soon get into more details about the different commandments.